Hello, how is everyone? Welcome to the stream. Hopefully everything's working fine. I can see that for some reason the browser is not working. Let me see if I can get the chat to come up on the screen properly. Hope everyone is good. We are back streaming for the first time in a long time. I didn't feel like doing it for a while, and I feel like doing it right now, so I'm doing it, and there ain't nothing that you can do about that. Mainly because I got a new bass guitar and I want to show it off. So that is gonna be what we do for most of the day. Is I show off my bass guitar. Well, I don't know if the chat is coming up on the screen or not. I doesn't look like it looks like it's supposed to, but it doesn't look like it is. So I don't know what's going on there. Maybe I'll fix that for next time. Hope everyone is doing well. And you know what the world's like. I also got a new chair, which I guess it feels more like an easier thing to stream in than... I feel more like a streamer in this sort of chair. Previously, I had an old chair that I found in the bin room, and also my room was organised in a different way, so I just couldn't actually sit on a chair when I was streaming, and I had to sit on my bed. But we're moving up in the world on this channel, and so I have a chair now. Fuck, I'm out of practice streaming, but I do have a chair. For anyone who's new, what we normally do in these streams, I drink some wine. This is a fine wine from my flatmate. Thank you, Tamash. Everyone thank Tamash for the fine wine. We drink some wine. We make some tunes. We chat about shit. We see how things go. I have a new bass that's exciting, so we're going to see how that goes. Weirdly, the levels between the bass and the guitar are hard to situate. I don't know if that's a problem with the guitar or not. Also, weirdly, the my outboard amp doesn't seem to like things being loud, so things seem a bit quiet for some reason. I might have to buy a new outboard amp. We are gonna have to think about that. Not right now. At another time when I have more cash. But with that said, what should we do first? Should we have a little try on the bass guitar and then crack open the wine, or should we crack open the wine first? Let's have a go. Let's make a tune first, and then we're gonna get the wine on the go. I'm quite excited about this wine. I've not had a nice wine in a while. But let's get a good tune on the go first. Shall we start with... We'll start with a bass line. We'll start with a bass line because that's... because I'm a bass line junkie. As they say. Here's the bass. Whoops, sorry. How are we going to do this? What are we going to do? One thing I've noticed, I've never owned a bass before. One thing I've noticed, and I'm sure everyone who's ever picked up a bass has noticed the same thing. Just the vibe of playing fingerstyle compared to with a plectrum, very different. What style are we going to do? Something kind of funky. That's a dead weather line. Okay, let's do this. Too slow. Alright, here we go. Anyway, there's one roll. You're all allowed one of that joke per session, and that was it. So no one's allowed to make that joke again. You're allowed one of that joke. Forgive me for the buzz as we switch guitars. Should we pick a drum beat first? Simple, easy. Has anyone ever heard of, what are they called? This sounds like a band from the 70s. Who did the songs like Milk and Alcohol. I quite like it though. There's a different vibe that we normally go for. Normally it's sonic tunes. Should we get a synthesizer on the go and see what happens?
Dr. Feelgood, that's it. Whoops. We're nearly there, and then we're on the line. Well, that's lost in the mix. So this is what I mean. I've not quite figured out what the levels work like in these different with the different instruments for some reason. I don't know why that is. But we are, we're learning as we go. A cortisol spike can be exact. Change up the song once I've poured some wine, but I'll do my I'll pour the wine, I'll taste it, I'll change up the song, and then I'll do my. For anyone who doesn't stick around, doesn't know, I do a little wine sort of sommeliering as we go. Briefly chilled in the freezer before consumption, as all sommeliers do. Looks good, looks like wine. We're off to a solid start with whether it's wine. That's nice. That is nice wine. I am going to change this tune because it is too distracting to talk to. I'm going to start with the guitar and make a bit more of a chilled sort of vibe. Sorry for anyone who comes here for the political analysis. This is not what we do. Until I have a few wines, and then it's all I do. For anyone who's also new here, it's also important that you ask me questions so that I have something to talk about. Otherwise, I'm just going to ramble incoherently for a few hours. Okay, let's get something a bit more chilled on the go here first. That's quite chill. There we go, that's something, isn't it? This guitar's been going out of tune quite a bit recently. Okay, now this is some chill stuff. Oh, there. Oh, the Gretsch is the guitar, yeah. The wine is called Pecorino. And the wine is lovely. This is definitely white wine music. Oh, I've not had a good wine in a while. It's nice. That's nice, isn't it? So, before I get any further, let me do my wine tasting. So this is Pecorino Terre de Chieti. I'm assuming Italian. Indicazione Geografica Petrote. Italian. Pecorino is a native Italian grape variety. See that? Italian. A grape variety from Abruzzo, not to be confused with cheese, with the cheese. Don't confuse it with the cheese. Eat seafood and white fish with it. Not going to do that, because if I eat seafood, I projectile vomit. I have a seafood intolerance. Bit of lore from the old GTD there. Seafood makes me projectile vomit. Made in a modern way while respecting local I didn't use my... Oh, hiya, Philip Wade. How's it going? Are the fret ends sharp on the bass? My friend has two of those Tamans, and the newer one was very nice, but the older one had fret sprout, which is not a rubbish Christmas food. No, the frets are no, they're not. They're sort of they're fine. Sorry, let me just say, made in a modern way while respecting local winemaking traditions, originates from the rugged mountains the rugged, mountainous Abruzzo region of central Italy. Fresh, zingy, with citrus and tropical fruit flavours. And it's vegan. Just so everyone knows, it's a vegan wine. Yeah. Who's oh, no one's, oh shit, Wonderwall, god damn it. Wonderwall's been mentioned twice. It is a nice wine. Can I say more about my philosophy/theory or personal experience behind your hesitation to express a positive view of masculinity? Is this informed by like queer nihilism? I think I tend to fit into a gender abolitionist framework on that regard. One of the things that I think gets me when people try to express a positive masculinity, no one ever says what that means. Like, what is, when we get down to it, what actually is the masculinity that we're holding on to? People are like, oh yeah, isn't it good when men care about things and they're nice, or they don't want to engage in the power fantasies and stuff that is, you know, essential to the construction of hegemonic masculinity, and they come up with all these different sort of constructions. They cite Aragorn as like this caring man, and there's any number of nice men, and you just think, well, what actually is the masculinity here? Is it just that men are performing traits that we think are nice? And if that's the case, is that masculinity, or is that just the gender that we have constructed as men performing nice things? What are we considering masculinity? I think that's the main problem. When we get down to like, oh, we need to reconstruct and do a positive masculinity or whatever. I do feel like it ends up kind of reconstructing gender binaries as essential categories, and I think that is a case within queer cultures as well. When we say, well, there's non-hegemonic masculinities, and there are queer masculinities, and that's like, yeah, sure, fine. Do we necessarily need there to be? Are we not looking to try and spread and disseminate the concept of gender to such an extent that it becomes less meaningful? I guess I've just never found a satisfactory theorization for what positive masculinity would be outside of just, this is a man or a masc presenting person who is performing traits that we think are good. That makes sense? Ooh, Phil, yeah, that is... See, this is a wine from... My flatmate gets fine wine delivered, but he doesn't drink so much anymore. So he has this sort of fine wine collection, and we are firing into it right now, which is great. It's good fun. Good to get a free fine wine, isn't it? Is it masculinity or not being a shitty person? That's a good question. I find that it is just... I don't really see the point necessarily of constructing a positive masculinity as such. Over and above just breaking these binaries and these systems of control that have dominated and been part of, like, you know, power structures for centuries. Thanks for allowing me to never watch the Adam Friedland interview. It may have killed me. Honestly, it's really... I was talking to my flatmate, and he said he got halfway through the video and I mentioned bleak too much. The thing is, it's just bleak. And there's no other word for it.
And it's just unfortunate. Have I had any experience with the Looksmaxxing trend before my mother approached me with it? Because the timeline-wise, it seems so from your video. I actually did the video before my mum had heard of it. I'd written the video, I hadn't filmed it, but I'd written the video before talking to my mum, and I was up for, just visiting, and she just turns to me and is like, "John, have you heard of this thing these guys are doing where they're like." I was listening to Radio 4 and they were saying there was like some internet trend of men getting plastic surgery or something, and I was like, oh my god, you're talking about Looksmaxxing, aren't you? And she was like, yeah, that was it, Looksmaxxing. And I was like, oh Jesus. And then we had a discussion about it, and I looked up some of the more botched examples of the plastic surgeries I've seen. So things where people's cheeks were so surgeried up they looked like hamsters and stuff like that. And I brought up that stuff. But I only really came across it a couple of weeks prior. Like, I think I'd heard of like clavicular as a character in the online sort of discourse field because of him hanging around with like Nick Fuentes and stuff like that. I remembered that, but I just assumed it was like the same manosphere stuff. I didn't know that there was another. And then I was told by someone significantly younger than me about Looksmaxxing as a thing, and I was like, oh my god, that's bleak. That's not great. And that was where that came from. That's sort of how I came across it. And I didn't want to do a video on this. I legit, I was not trying to do it until I just saw that interview. And then I was like, oh, I kind of need to talk about this. And thankfully I had reached nearing the end of Mad Men. And I was like, this is an excuse for me to talk about Mad Men as well, which is the thing I really wanted to do more than anything else. Mad Men's good. I like Mad Men. And I could only ever watch 2 episodes at a time, but still, much better than learning about Looksmaxxing. My parents are in their 70s. I might try and explain the concept and context to them just for fun. My mum's 70, or at least she will be in a couple of weeks. So it's been on Radio 4, so the 70-year-olds they're on it. They get it.
it's been going on truly horrifying stuff. The thought that it went mainstream went through my head, I want to say, during early 2024. That's a lot longer ago than I thought. I don't think Clavicular says it's from phrenology, but he certainly, he wouldn't, I suspect he doesn't know what the word phrenology is, but that it's certainly the objective measures. And I remember seeing stuff like this when I was in school, a fairly long time ago now. And like the sort of facial, like how to know when you're good looking, that sort of thing, and people like having the mathematical rules and stuff like that. And I do remember thinking, that's some horse shit, isn't it? That seems like nonsense when I was like 15. But I understand why as a 15-year-old it would speak to you, because there's a sense of like, there's almost a sense of comfort when you realize that like you don't have a chance, when it's like, oh, this is all a genetic thing. The reason that, you know, girls won't talk to me is nothing to do with my personality or anything that I can change by making myself better or by being uncomfortable with like the way I am as a human. What it needs is complete changes of my facial structure. It needs like, I need to get specifically taller or leaner and all that sort of thing. And like the limits of like the maximizing and the ascending that they say are all very like firm. And I guess there's something comfortable in like being like, well, what I need to do is actually get rich so I can afford plastic surgeries, and I don't have to think that maybe I am creeping out women when I stare at them, that kind of thing. I can imagine that's one of the reasons why teenage boys are attracted to this kind of thing as well. And it's very clear. It's something I didn't really get into in the video so much, but I think it is very clear that Clavicular as a character, as a guy, he was stunted as a 14-year-old. COVID started when he was 14, and he was locked in his bedroom in his house on forums, like incel forums, pickup artist forums, right-wing forums, and he hasn't changed since then. He has become emotionally stunted within these forums, and like I've had quite a few comments being like, oh yeah, this is just a young guy, and it's like, well, he is a full-grown man. That is a 20-year-old man. But I understand why people want to like infantilize him, because the way he acts is very like a young teenager. And I think that part of it is that he has been stunted within that period of being he didn't learn how to socialize properly. Like he was stuck on message boards for like 2 years, not like actually engaging with people or talking to people and realizing that the things he said were like weird and made him like difficult to be around as a woman, and didn't understand that learning how to talk to people, to women, to get to men, whatever, is a much more important skill than getting a bunch of plastic surgeries or going to the gym. I remember like the incel culture is something I remember coming across. When I was like younger, it was pickup artistry. That's where a lot of these guys kind of hung out. But it was always kind of like, these are strange people and kind of sad people. And I think that's still the case. I think most young men probably think of these guys as kind of sad and kind of depressing and like losers, because they are. Like, doesn't matter how rich they are or like what their body count is, a grotesque phrase. But they are weirdos. and everyone, I think most people thinks that they're weirdos. But I do remember, like, the consistencies with stuff I remember from when I was in university, or like people making jokes, like you're saying, like jokes about not lasting very long during sex and stuff like that, and like mixing that with like, oh, it's about my time actually. It's a weird kind of mix of like the self-flagellating and self-deprecating aspects with a kind of trading bro cryptocurrency hustle and grind culture that sort of manifests into a specific way. And I think that's one of the reasons why I had a small like argument with someone on Instagram about like who was saying that, oh, this is just, you know, this is just what women have been, the sort of beautifying stuff that women have been engaged in forever. And I just don't think that's right. I don't think that's a correct analysis of what's going on. Like, there are extents to which it is, like the, you know, the beauty industry is like increasingly marketing towards men, and there's an element of that. But this is a very specific like result of masculine and male like features of society, like the pickup artistry, the trading stuff, the you know, the economization, the domination of other women and other men is all much more masculine than it is like a result of like or a sort of reflection of beauty industry dynamics but applied to men. Also in the same way, I think that some people like in queer, like gay men culture, pick up a degree that Looksmaxxing or you know, the kind of like beautifying that comes that emerges in certain gay circles looks a lot like this Looksmaxxing in certain ways. But I don't think it's the same thing. I think that the motivating factors at play are much closer to the hustle and grinds, crypto trading, you know, culture than they are necessarily even the look stuff. I think the look stuff is almost like an addendum that comes from this baseline of trading, you know, dominating that kind of masculinity than it does from anything else. And I think that's where people are kind of getting their wires crossed in regard to it. Look, as a Marxist, I'm interested in the difference between form and appearance. And that's, I think, what I'm picking up on. Gonna have to tune this guitar again. How do I feel about a queer reading of incels? You're gonna have to explain exactly what that means. 1 second, I am going to give my flatmate some wine. I will be back in 1 second. Alright, back. That most incels are trans eggs. I don't think that's true. I think that that's both untrue and dangerous as a thing to suggest, to be honest. I think most incels are just misogynists. It's that kind of reading reminds me a lot of like the same thing of like, oh, most homophobes are actually gay men kind of thing. I don't think that's true. I think that I was actually having this discussion earlier. I understand where the notion that having a sense of body dysmorphia creates a sort of, lends itself to understanding people as being trans. Body dysmorphia is not something that I think is the amount of body dysmorphia that exists within non-trans people. You know, it's ubiquitous. I think it's very flattening. I think to lump that together. So I would think that I think that's unlikely. One second, I'm gonna tune this guitar again. I probably need new strings. Go. I was gonna say something, but I forgot what I was gonna say. I had something else to talk about, regarding the last, regarding the, I guess I could talk about Mad Men. God, I love Mad Men. Yeah, I've forgotten what I was going to say, to be honest. But I guess it doesn't matter at the end of the day. I did watch the Louis Theroux documentary on the Manosphere last night, and, you know, I thought it was broadly fine. I have discovered, also, there have been people circulating rumours about my gender identity, which I find quite funny and kind of chic. I guess you talk about masculinity being a cage for long enough, and people start to have rumours I texted my friend about it, and who is a trans woman, and she immediately came up with 2 names of people who think that my gender identity is a certain way, and I thought, that's funny. And I also thought, well, instead of fucking speculating about my gender identity, you could share my fucking videos. Dimac, yeah, exactly. I ignored Mad Men for the longest time because of the way that I thought it because I did think it was going to be all about this kind of this notion of like the veneration of masculinity. That's the sort of image I got of it. And then, like, genuinely in the first episode, you're like, oh, right, yeah. What a good first episode of TV it is as well. What the first episode of Mad Men, you're just like, whoa. That is a hell of an opener. It's so good. And I didn't get the chance to talk about things in Mad Men that I also think are interesting, because I was focused heavily on the sort of Don Draper comparison. I mentioned Betty Draper a bit, but I think Betty Draper is a fascinating character and such an interesting way of exploring like hegemonic femininity and its role in like as a sort of prison guard for patriarchy. Because it's fascinating the way that the Betty Draper exists as like as a perpetual child, because that's what she's supposed to be, a kind of princess. And I think she says at various points she's supposed to be treated like a princess, because that's how her style of like upper class femininity is supposed to exist in the world. And she is the most cruel person to her children. Like, Don's a bad father, don't get me wrong. Don Draper, not a good dad. But one thing that he does do is refuse to hit his children, where Betty Draper insists that he does. And that, I think that's a really interesting dynamic at play. Betty Draper is a fascinating character, and the role of race in the show is well done, because it's not like the show is not about racism in 1960s America, as a function of 1950s and 1960s America, as a function of like the setting, it just can't really be. But the way that the civil rights movement is framed, the way that prior to the civil rights movement, loads of the black characters are sort of in the background in a very specific and intentional way, keeping society running almost silently. And that's clearly very deliberate, and that's an interesting way of doing it. And then, never mind, you've got Pete Campbell, who starts off as the weaseliest little horrible slime bag you've ever met, and then by the end you're like, woke king Pete Campbell coming to the defense of Martin Luther King. And you're like, who'd have thought it? But the notion that it's masculinity in advertising, but without actually analysing it, I had the similar thing, like, all these cool sexy advertising execs, and then you're like, oh, these cool sexy advertising execs. And I guess it's not helped by the fact that Jon Hamm is a beautiful man, and that does sort of colour a lot of the stuff and the perception of it. Right, let's change up the song. Is this a hyper masculine stream where I will learn how to stop being a pookie baby? Well, we are drinking white wine. The most masculine drink. What season am I on? I finished it. I finished it on the night that the video came out, I think. There were a couple things in the final 2 episodes that, for reasons that are personal to me and I will not go into, were particularly difficult to be confronted with without realising they were coming just out the blue. I liked the ending. Apparently it's controversial. I thought the ending was good. I enjoyed it. I thought it tied things up nicely and left it up to interpretation enough that makes the ending interesting, I think. But I will be watching the show again at some point. My next job is to watch Pluribus and probably make a video about, I don't know, communism and Pluribus, because apparently that's a thing. But I do like Vince Gilligan. I have been meaning to watch it. Alright, let's make a tune. Let's do something kind of... Used to live with a guy who absolutely idolised the idea of Don Draper. He was smart enough to understand the show, but he still kind of wanted to be that. I think that's so... Like, I understand on an intellectual level how that happens, because just aesthetically, he's cool. He, you know, sleeps with a lot of women, drinks and smokes a lot, is beautiful, is cool, whatever, competent, well paid. The ideal. Like, the show only works if Don Draper is the ideal of masculinity when you're first presented with it. That's the only way that it works as a deconstruction. The problem is that some people will look at that ideal and go, yes, that's good. And then they won't look at all the scenes where he's staring out the window into the middle distance, fantasizing about killing himself, or, you know, the various times in which he is weeping or self-destructing. It's, yeah. Great show. Okay, let's do something like that. I've recommended your videos on trans and sex gender stuff to cis people who need a cis person to say it. You're like the only cis person here who has a real analysis. So I appreciate you. Well, that's incredibly kind of you to say, and that's a responsibility that I genuinely take very seriously. I appreciate it. You know what's happened? Since I last streamed, I finished my book. My book is out for review. You all better fucking buy it. I'm kidding. It will be free. Actually, it's going to be open access, so you'll be able to get a free download once it's out. Yeah, that's fun. I'll finish. Spoilers, you won't. I assume this is about Pluribus. Spoilers, you won't find much about it in there unless you want to rehash. The media doesn't understand communism format. Well, we'll see how it is. I'll have a look and see if there's anything in Pluribus to talk about. The thing about media criticism, it does get views, and this channel has been dying for a wee while, unfortunately. This Mad Men and Looksmaxxing video is the first one in a while that's done even slightly well. So I need a couple wins, and maybe Pluribus might offer a win. Thank you for the congratulations. We'll see. Hopefully the reviewers are normal. The reviews for one of the reviewers for the book proposal was not. It was. I won't talk about the specifics of it because that seems unprofessional. But one of the reviewers was like. One of the reviewers, I would say, was quite unprofessional in their review, in that I don't think they actually read the draft chapter that was submitted. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen again, and I'm hoping it's a painless review process. But the way that, almost always the way that reviews work, you'll get one who's like, this is great, and then one who's like, this is the worst thing ever, and you should hang your head in shame, never write anything again, and I think actually maybe you should walk into the sea. So hopefully that doesn't happen. Alright. Can I offer some unsolicited bit of YouTube algorithm advice? Aye, go for it. Why be a reviewer if you don't read anything? I'll get to that in a second. And we'll go into the academia world. I'm going to make a funky bass line, and I'm going to explain why the world of peer review is fucked. Now there's a funky bass line. I'm going to fuck about for a bit and then I'm going to talk about peer review. I'm not sure that's how the member preview stuff works, actually. I think that the algorithm problems extend far beyond member stuff. I think it's just that people aren't getting recommended. I think for a while, what I'm going to do anyway is not do premieres, but do from membership to live, and that way the members' videos will already go unlisted because they will become the normal videos. That's fun. We're gonna stick with this for a wee while. Check out how I can lounge now. Previously I couldn't lounge when I was on stream. Look at me, I'm fucking lounging. It's loosh. I got a plant. I got another plant. Fuck, I'm professional. Jesus. This is how a professional streamer looks. Not just a guy in his bedroom. It's only taken me almost 7 years of goddamn YouTubing to come up with a setup which is vaguely professional looking. I am gonna have to lean in anyway to read the comments because I can't see them on the small screen. The other plant? Oh, I've got so many plants. So we have this one, which is like a cheese plant, maybe? We've got a baobab tree. We've got a little bonsai tree. We've got a thing, spider plant, another bonsai tree. Up there I've got a money plant, a fern, and some ivy. And then some little succulents as well. And I've got another fern. There, and a cactus. And I just did my outdoor gardening as well on the balcony. That I planted a whole bunch of pansies to fill up. I had some chilies that unfortunately were killed by frost, and I replaced them with some pansies. My outdoor balcony is looking quite good at the moment. I've got an olive tree, which is nice. Got some lavender. I've got a really good thyme plant. That thrived. Thyme thrived. Got some ivy. Some strawberries that I grew from seeds from strawberry plants. What else have I got? Conifer. Some wild flowers that have survived somehow. It's weird. Where I live, things that should be like shouldn't survive. Things that should be difficult to keep alive as plants. They thrive. I have like this bush. Can't remember what it's called, but it's a bush that like blooms these beautiful blue, vibrant blue colours. I told my mum I got one. I grew it from like a tiny little seedling. And I told my mum I got one, and she was like, John, they're difficult to grow, those things. I couldn't get them to cultivate in your granny's garden at all. And then, but it thrives here. It's doing really well. I need to actually trim it back. But ferns die. I can't keep ferns alive here. I have bamboo that's dying. And God knows why. It's like, it beggars belief. Things that should be unkillable just immediately die. And things that are like, oh, that's a very temperamental thing. It's like, I live near an airport. Like, why? Why should... What's going on here? What's going on? But I do like plants. My flatmate has a running joke that when I come in from being out, there are two things that I will frequently just have in my arms: secondhand books and plants. And you know what? I'm not going to apologise for it. I like my plants. I like my secondhand books. It's my way of relaxing. That is more legal than some of the other ways of relaxing. How long have we been going for? About an hour and a half? We'll stick around until 10 o'clock and then we'll head off at 10. I should probably look at what you're all saying in the chat, because I've just been on a plant rant.
One thing I am dealing with right now, which is very annoying, is moss gnats. If you'll be able to see them flying about in the stream a little bit. Just tiny little flies that live in the soil of houseplants, and they're very difficult to get rid of. I've got all these traps set up, and I've got like all my plant soil has like gnat repellent on it now. I think we might be getting close to being able to get rid of them, but God, it's been really annoying. At first I thought it was fruit fly, so I had fruit fly traps up, but it wasn't fruit flies. I understand why you would have a dichotomy between being a plant person and a cat person, because one of the reasons why the cat is not allowed in this room is because he's a fucking menace with plants. I came back, I was away for a lot of the summer. Well, actually, twice I've come back, and the cat has broken into my room and tipped up all of my plants. Last year I went to the guest lecture in the Centre for Alternative Technology in Wales. I did a guest lecture on degrowth there. Came back, cat had devastated my plants. Over the summer, I was away for reasons. When I got back, the cat had broken through the child lock that is on the door. Broken through it. Just so he could get into my room and fuck up my plants. And then, around about November, October last year, he broke into the room and destroyed my previous money plant, which was a money plant that I bought in celebration of passing my PhD Viva. And it was the one thing that I have achieved since passing my PhD was keeping that plant alive, and that little bastard destroyed it. Not that I hold a grudge. So he's not allowed in. That, Katie, that's a very kind thing to say. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's always nice to hear, especially when the channel's not doing too well, that people actually do engage with and enjoy the work. So, yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. The cat is an he's a wee bastard. I mean, he's lovely. He's very cute, but he is a bastard. The cat, he does have asthma. Which is funny. He wanders around the flat, sneezing and sort of asthmatically breathing loudly. And look, as a fellow asthma sufferer myself, I'm allowed to make fun of him. But he does sound ridiculous. And like when he purrs these days, he purrs asthmatically. It's really loud, but also laborious, which is quite fun. Little bastard. He is very cute. You do have to hand it to him. Do I think I caught asthma from the cat? I think my asthma has roughly like 27 years on the cat being alive. I almost died when I was like 1 from an asthma attack, and I was 1 year old when I had this asthma attack, and my dad took me to the sick kids in Edinburgh, and they were like, "What's your son's date of birth?" And my dad didn't know, and they were like, "Okay, don't worry, how old is he?" And my dad didn't know. So they were like, "Okay, we're just gonna treat him." I guess 1 I mean, in my dad's defense, I think at that stage, he had 2 other sons and a daughter on the way. So he might have been a little bit stressed, but still, I do feel like he should have remembered that I was a year old. They did give me a Batman toy at the Sick Kids though, and that was nice. It was like a Batman head, like that you could open up, and it had like Batman's lair, the Bat Cave, inside the head. I don't know what that was. I don't know why the head had the Bat Cave in it. I liked it. But I to return to cats, my asthma's fine these days. Don't really get asthma attacks, unless I am near Siamese cats. I cannot go near Siamese cats and guinea pigs. Cannot go near Siamese cats or guinea pigs, or I might die. My auntie used to have Siamese cats, and it was always stressful going to her house. To be fair, it was the middle of the night and you weren't breathing, and at least he took you to the hospital. I don't think it was the middle of the night. I think it was in the day. Did it have the giant? It didn't have the giant penny. No, it just had a bunch of ladders going over the inside of the Batman head. All right, I'm gonna make one more tune, and that'll be the tune that's gonna finish us out. It's gonna see us out for the stream. Get your questions in. Tag me in the questions, so so I don't lose track of them. But if you've got any burning questions, let me know, and I will seek to answer them once I've made a tune. What kind of vibe are we thinking of, though? I think I'm going to start it with the bass this time. See what comes from the bass. Get some slap bass. That sounds cool, but I think I want to keep it kind of chill. Something that's a bit... Okay, let's try that. Ooh, Portishead. I do like Portishead. Can we get a Portishead vibe on? I remember I was in a band once that had a kind of Portisheady tune. What was the bass line? I wasn't the bass player, but the bass line was quite...
Something like that. Yeah, it was something like that. Let's do that. Let's try something like that. Let's start with a drum beat and see what comes up. I did forget I can use my pedals with this as well. Oh, it's a bit Scott Pilgrim, isn't it? Okay, we're doing this. This was not what I was expecting, but we're fucking with it. I don't know where that came from. I do know where that came from. That came from playing distorted bass guitar. But I'm happy with that. That's some fun shit. That wasn't Portishead. We ended up not going in the Portishead direction. Have I tried Daggerheart? I don't know what that is. So no, I guess is the answer to that question. Yeah. Anything anyone has a burning desire to know about? I don't know what the next video is going to be on, by the way. I have ideas. I've got an ideas board. I've got my whiteboard. Long-term fans of the channel will know of the whiteboard, but the whiteboard is now on the wall, hung up, since I rearranged my room. I have some ideas on there. I've got a to-do list. Book draft by New Year. That's done. So that's done. Job applications. Oh, that one is. Oh. That one's passed. Ecoside paper for January. That's nearly finished. That one is myself and my former supervisor, Damien Short, and our colleague Martin Crook have written a chapter for a book on war in the Anthropocene, and we've written a chapter which is actually the structure of which was based on an old video of mine, and the title at the moment is an old video of mine called Ecocide from Vietnam to Palestine, and that's that. Assuming that they'll still let us into the book despite the fact that we are catastrophically late, that's just being finished, so that's actually done. Policing and Yimby for David White. We have to ask David White if he's still accepting abstracts for that. But I have an idea on that actually. Eco Handbook, that's a handbook that I'm editing on eco-politics at the moment, but not done much work on that at the present time. I've also got ideas for YouTube, so Aid and Imperialism, done, ticked off, we did that one. Buff Nerds. Dunno if that idea is going to go anywhere, but I do find it interesting that a lot of nerds are buff these days. There's something there. So maybe at some point I will do a video on buff nerds. As a buff nerd, maybe I need to get more buff before I do the buff nerd video. But I also have a bit chocolate and imperialism. That might be something that I do soon, actually. A video on chocolate, because it's actually, I read a really good article by Ellie Gore recently about the divisions of social reproductive labour within, and the changes in those divisions of labour within the chocolate production or the cacao production in West Africa, and I thought that'd be an interesting video. And then there was another article by, I think it was Nick Bernard, who did the book Fictions of Financialization, which is a great book, by the way, you should give it a read, about how that production has changed over recent years, and the sort of development of chocolate production in different epochs of capitalism. There might be something fun to do there. I do have to do my fascism video, based on the article that myself and my colleague Kian Aspinall wrote. I will do that fascism video at some point, but I do think, so we've got some stuff on the go. Not sure what will be next. I discovered, so basically what's happened is I submitted my book draft, and for the first time in about a year, maybe a bit longer than a year really, yesterday I find myself with nothing immediately pressing to do, in that book draft was finished, out my hands. Chapter finished, out my hands. Well, my bit's finished and out my hands. I've got no articles that need to be revised or written for any deadlines at this point. My teaching term. Well, my term has started, but I'm not engaged in the actual teaching at this point. I've got to wait until first assignments come in. I just released a video, so I didn't have any immediately pressing video stuff on the go. So I found myself for the first time in like over a year without something immediately pressing to do. And that was interesting. I haven't had a moment to relax in that time, so I guess I should just sort of allow myself a day or two to catch my breath. But the nature of the algorithm does mean that you kind of do immediately start to worry about what's next. Heavenly sightline of looking upwards to the whiteboard of divine inspiration. Exactly. It's right up there. It's got a pride flag on it. I should... Someone has written, "You look hot" on it, and it wasn't me. What did I do with my relaxing free time? Not to be horrendously on brand, I started reading... I went back to reading Capital. I was meaning to reread Volume 1 and Volume 2 last year, but events transpired that meant I didn't complete that, and I got back to it last night, and I probably will get back to it again after stream. Is it a little bit depressing that on my day off I read Capital? Who's to say? Who's to say? But I did also watch the Louis Theroux documentary. I went to the gym. No, I did go to the gym yesterday. I just went for a swim. I am a cliche. I understand that. In many ways that I am a cliche. What are you gonna do? I've been reading a lot about Cuba recently, so I might do a video specifically on Cuba. Because I think Cuba is, in the world, probably the only and closest actually, attempting a transition towards communist state that there is. I don't think any other actually existing socialist state comes close, to be honest. And it's a tragedy to the world that it's being choked out by the US. So I might do a video on Cuba. I should probably try to do some more current affairs videos, because those things do pop off as well. But I did learn a long time ago that it is a fool's errand to try and chase the algorithm. You can only ever write about things that are interesting to you. We'll see. We'll see what comes up next. Still have to decide. What's the time now? It is 49. Shall we draw it to a close there then? This has been a nice return to streaming. I'm glad how many people have gelled with the last video. It was definitely less academic-y than normal, which is fun. The two citations, the Bruff and Starnes and Quinn Slobodian. I'm going to a Quinn Slobodian book launch next Tuesday as well. Those are the only two citations. Excuse me. But yeah, it was much more of a just reflection I guess I'll see if Pluribus has anything meaty on the bones that I can reflect on in an interesting way. I'd make an Andor video, but I already kind of did that with my public intellectual video, so we'll see. There's the flotilla that's going out. Yep, that's going out. An interesting dimension of the blockade is that, so for a long time, Cuba has been well aware of the instability of relying on Venezuela for its oil production for a number of reasons, including Venezuela's not always been the most, it's not always the most reliable source for a number of reasons, including US, most, prominently US interference and the squeezing of sanctions and stuff like that. So Cuba has been expanding its renewable and solar energy for a number of years. But with the blockade, that has ramped up immensely. And, it's interesting. There's a kind of duality to the blockade in the sense that, on the one hand, it is the major cause of hardship and, the absolute devastation, economic devastation that Cuba is subject to. Major cause is the blockade. But it has also allowed Cuba to remain revolutionary in a way that I think it probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't for cultural, at least, blockades. And that is an interesting dichotomy, which is reflected in the current mode of transition, like green transition politics, because the blockade might be turning Cuba into one of the greener countries in the world. We might be going towards, green communism because of the blockade, if Cuba manages to, survive the horrendous, frankly fucking genocidal blockade politics. Sanctions have, by the way, for a long time been considered part of the architecture of genocides. First, some of the earlier work on that was regarding the Iraqi blockades and sanctions in the 90s. I did a video on that years ago. Actually, a guy who I talked to about that video, John McDonald, not the same one, has got his Vive on Wednesday, so everyone say good luck, John McDonald. There's some meatiness to be found within the disability community with regard to pandemic, if anyone still cares to examine such a thorny topic. I mean, we'll see if that's... I wouldn't necessarily go into it looking for that lens, but if it's something that jumps out at me, I think that would be something interesting to discuss. So we'll see. I'll have to watch it and see. Gonna do some research with Sri Lanka and the Tamil genocide anytime soon? No, that hasn't jumped out to me, but there, I might do, talking about John McDonnell, my friend, he was doing his PhD with me for a while. His work is on the West Papuan colonisation and through a critical genocide studies lens. I might do a video on that, because there's been some recent publications on UK business entwinement with the West Papuan government, or with the Indonesian government, on facilitating West Papuan dispossession, genocide. So I might do something regarding to that sometime soon, and I might get John to talk to me about it in the same way I got Martin to talk to me about ecocide last year. So we'll see about that. That might actually be something that comes out relatively soon.
I'll speak to John when he does his Viva. I'm assuming he'll pass because the way. I was gonna do a thing about peer review, wasn't I? Next time. Very quickly. Why would someone do a peer review when they don't want to read it? The short answer is essentially, so I don't know, for context, if someone reviewed my book proposal, but reviewed it really weird and very clearly hadn't read it. The thing that person really wanted to do was essentially a pissing contest, dick measuring contest about the bounds of disciplinary bounds within academia. I have a suspicion of who that might have been because it was blind. I have a suspicion who it might have been. And the reason that they would do something like that, they might have read it and then they might have just talked some shite. But they didn't really read it. They had things that they wanted to say. They skimmed it. And they wanted me to engage with work in a certain way, probably citing them or citing people that are associated with them for their own clout, basically. Academic clout. Most people who agree to review are like, they want to read the stuff, but a lot of the time what happens is when people are reviewing things, they engage with it. A lot of people engage with it in the sense of like, is this do I agree with this, rather than is this publishable? And that's a problem, because a lot of stuff that is publishable and interesting is stuff that you don't agree with. The other thing people will do is say, you should cite me. And there's some crossover there, because if you agree with something, you tend to have a wealth of literature and knowledge behind you to recommend. But that happens. Oh, hello, Steak Fan Club 4664. We are just about to finish, so I'm afraid that you are too late. The clavicular video is about how Looksmaxxing is depressing and sad, and masculinity is a cage, basically. But yeah, for academic reviewers, yeah, it is actually just a joke. You will often get in academic circles that one reviewer will say, this is brilliant, really like it, here's some pointers of where you should go. That's how I review, to be clear, because I'm nice. And there are others who say, this is terrible, this doesn't follow the literature of like the literature that I agree with, and therefore fuck you and die, basically. Alright, okay, Steak Fan Club's Fan Club 4664 is worried about being masculine and wants to eat raw meat. Hi man, we all want to suck a dick now and then, but is this the time and place? We are going to end the stream on that note of sucking dick raw. Thank you to Steak Fan Club 4664 for that incisive comment. And I will see you all next time. I'm going to try and be more regular with streams again. I just needed I needed some time to get back into it, basically, for a number of reasons. But before Steak Fan Club, really gets into sucking dick again, I will draw it to a close and see you all later. Oh, I guess I should do the thing. Sign up to Patreon if you want. Fucking Ko-fi, PayPal, all that shite. Channel membership. It's in the descriptions. See yous next time.